Gives you a little bit of an idea of what kind of town this is.
Yes.
During the energy crisis in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a challenge to reduce energy consumption amongst several towns, both in New England and in Canada. Monterey jumped in to this challenge, and we were actually successfully on a national scale. So why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because that's the type of town Monterey is. We're a can-do town. We pride ourselves on helping ourselves. We take care of our own roads and bridges. We pride ourselves on taking care of our own populations. We pride ourselves on taking care of our lakes and our streams and our beautiful surroundings. One day it will green up, but I can assure you. We pride ourselves on the fact that we probably made more people defect from other states to come and live in the Commonwealth than almost any town in Berkshire County, myself included. Our challenge is that we're small, and sometimes small means lack of influence, or you're at the bottom of a very long list. That sometimes we don't register very highly with, from the State House to utility companies to even when we write grant applications. And that's a challenge of being in a small town. But I think the issues that we're going to be talking about today, and I want to make sure that everybody understands this, especially the issues that we talk about, we're looking for guidance and assistance with. Not, please don't take them as complaints. We're looking to, we want to be in a situation where we can help our residents, we can help ourselves, and we can be continually known as that can-do town. So with that, I'd like to welcome you.
That's great. What a beautiful introduction and welcoming to all of us to be here. Thank you for your leadership, for being elected officials, appointed officials, to the workforce that comes to this building every day. You're the ones that think about the community, worry about the community, plan for it, and as part of that can-do spirit, get the job done for the people who live here. And I'm here to say, on behalf of our administration, the governor and me, how much we appreciate our municipal public workforce, elected and appointed employees across the state are literally on the front lines at the grassroots, helping us build a stronger Massachusetts. Our vision is simple. We said we have to think about how we're going to grow a stronger state, from economics, from education, to infrastructure, to resiliency, environmental, public health, public safety, everything. And we're going to do that through the 351 cities and towns of this Commonwealth. People judge how they feel in life, not by what's happening on Beacon Hill, but by how they feel in the community in which they live. And so what you're doing is so important. Today I will have officially visited all 351 cities and towns of this Commonwealth. Meetings like this, officially listening to, working with, and partnering with the local officials of this Commonwealth. So I come here today in partnership with you, in support of you, and to try to leave with a better understanding of things that we can work on together to help you do what you need to do for the people who live here and call this home. So we're already doing things together, and that's a good thing. You were one of the early signers of the Community Compact Program, talking about shared services around education. I think that was an initiative that you chose to work on. All 351 of our communities have applied to the Best Practices Compact, every single one. So we have over 800 best practice projects underway in municipal government across our state, working on a variety of different things and initiatives, being more innovative and practical about delivering services. We can talk about a number of topics today that you want to give me an update on. I know one of them has to do with broadband. The broadband piece, and that's why I have Peter here. We also have Pat Carnavale, who's our Western Mass director. You might know him from NEMA, because he was the NEMA director as well. And we have Caitlin McGinnis from my office. So when I leave here, all the contacts and name and faces are important to all of us. There needs to be a familiarity with one another. We're not strangers in this Commonwealth. We're partners, and their names and faces need to be familiar to each other. So we'll talk about whatever you want, but I know with the broadband piece, we need to make sure we have enough time to talk about that today as part of our conversation, and I'm happy to work with Peter in addressing that. Having said that, Governor and I view the broadband connections for the last mile communities as essential infrastructure. This has to get done. We have to connect people to the internet for a whole lot of reasons. It's a public health issue, public safety issue, it's an economics issue. People want to work from home. Education, kids need to learn, access the internet for homework and for learning. And it's about property values and making sure that people who live here have value in their property. If they need to move on from it, it's valuable to someone else.
So
and it's a big part of the community. It's a big part of our effort to help communities as well.
So that's on our list.
Okay.
We wanted to start with something even more.
Okay, good.
Let's say even more pressing, but something that's certainly significant, and it's in that same in the same vein, and then we'll get to and then we'll get if you don't if that's okay.
Yeah, and I have some.
Because broadband, we can. I mean, I know that we can sit here and we can talk about for hours and hours and hours on broadband. But yeah, let's move back a little bit to self-service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you've traveled around the world. I certainly have, and I've been in areas that were less populated that had better self-service. It's no longer, as you know, self-service is no longer a luxury. It's no longer for people that have lots of money. It's essential. In Berkshire County, we have a dramatically aging population. Adequate self-service is a lifeline.
Yes.
Quite frankly, and we're now sitting here in 2018, where all the studies have been done in Monterey, and they've determined that Monterey, and I sent you that verbiage, and I apologize for the long-windedness.
It was excellent. Because we used it to begin our conversations, or continue our conversations.
Right, we did.
The utilities.
Good. So we're sitting here in 2018, and all the studies have been done. It's been determined we have the locations of the towers that we needed. We know through our discussions with our chief of police how essential good cell communication is.
Chief here.
That's
There you
chief.
go. Thank you, Chief.
And we know that different areas of Berkshire County have great cell service, and some of them have terrible cell service.
Well, I've experienced a lot of that.
Right, you have. We thought
I find
maybe
a
that-
high spot and I stay there for a few minutes sometimes when I need to do it.
By the way, we're going to suggest that you all put your phones on airplane mode so that you can experience what we experience every day. No communication. So, no looking at your phones.
So, as we were talking about, and when it comes to property values, and it comes to
Self-services.
and it comes to health and safety,
No question.
it is essential.
Yeah.
We've made a little progress, but quite frankly, it's like pulling teeth.
Okay.
We have a cell operator ready to build the second of two towers, but we've been unable to convince. We've just got preliminary response from AT&T finally that they're considering location on the new tower because they're the only ones that populate the first tower in Monterey. However, frankly, we need Verizon as well. I've been asked by the board to reach out to Senator Markey and his office, and they've been helpful. And then we received this very strange response or copy of a response of an email from Verizon that basically said, "I'm sorry, but we're bringing fiber into Boston, and therefore we have no money to provide cell service to Monterey." Now, obviously,
I see that one.
what? Yes, I
that.
have these. I have.
They have an emergency services network responsibility for Massachusetts, I believe, correct?
They do.
Verizon?
They do, but AT&T bid on the FirstNet emergency response thing as well, and I think it parallels a little bit of what's going on.
The key issue here, if somebody's in an accident and tries to call for help, they can't. There is no emergency services.
Okay, so let me just conclude. Let me just conclude that it's a very big challenge when we're talking about, again, when we're talking about providing services to our residents or bringing tourists to the Commonwealth, to getting folks comfortable with living up here if they don't have basic cell service. So any assistance, and again, I provided you with a transfer to that email,
Yes, you
but I can certainly give you the full thread. Any assistance that we can have, and again, they say they'll get around to it eventually, but again, when do we wait? Is it 2020, 2025? It has become very, very, very essential to us. And so I thank you for your attention on this.
Thank you for the summary and for all of the papers. This has been very helpful for us to understand better and to have it in writing from you. And I know that Peter, as a result of your communications to us, has made some connections
I had
that you can speak to.
Right. Donna Capello, who's obviously the regional president for Verizon, Ellen Cummings is her government affairs person. I just got off the phone with her, and I shared with her, Ken, your email that spoke about the AT&T FirstNet response, which is encouraging. And I know that is a requirement that AT&T has done, is to create an emergency avenue, if you will, of response. And they're only in the gist of your email, I'm understanding that they're interested in the site that is not fully put up yet. So they have a plan there. And I said to her, because we've been chasing Verizon since you first inquired, and we've been a little frustrated, like you are, that it's not in their capital plan. And we've been knocking on that door. And then when the AT&T response to the FirstNet bid came through, they have an obligation to meet that requirement. So in some ways, they're going to be sort of like the partner on the pole that is really sort of a big gap that's occurring in Monterey, is my understanding. You can, is that your impression as well?
Yep.
So I've been working also with American Tower on this issue as well. I mean, I found out more about towers than I really never thought I needed to know. But they have a tower location as well that they've been implementing as well. And even in conversation with them, they said, it would be in Verizon's best interest to have an antenna placed wherever it's appropriate, but the tower itself is still lacking. The tower itself has to be built to fill the void.
Well, we have two towers. One is up currently with AT&T on it.
Right.
One is all the permitting was done prior to this. We have to go through the permitting again, but there shouldn't be any issues with the permitting, so it should be a very straight.
But is the tower built?
No.
No.
So
In Vertex,
the second tower is
is
not.
So that's it makes it a chicken and an egg thing.
Okay.
It's the Verizon says we'll consider locating if there's a tower, but Vertex needs them to commit to locating in order for him to get the financing or to move forward with the tower.
So okay, so they need what I call an occupant. That's really
Yes.
really what they need, an occupant who's paying
Letter of
rent.
intent to lease.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now that tower is going to fill the emergency needs of the community.
Of the community.
So AT&T going on that tower would serve the same function for emergency service.
So currently, and the chief can speak to this. Currently, the emergency service, the CGIS system that we're looking at, is not available through AT&T, but only through Verizon, and that's one of the reasons why we're pushing Verizon.
Okay.
So the bottom line is that we need Verizon on both those towers along with AT&T, and it's for not only emergency services but just for the well-being of the community.
And Verizon does have towers located in Great Barrington and Otis, so there are Verizon antennas or repeaters or whatever they're called on both sides of us.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not in this area at all.
Yeah, they're in, and they don't like gaps either. And placing an antenna, albeit the tower isn't built yet, but it's important that they have tenants so that they can get the revenue stream that they need to put it up. I mean, that's an ask of Verizon. I just know the intent in the read of the emails that we've seen is that AT&T is moving forward, and they have to because of because of their FirstNet responsibilities. Now, just help me out. Is AT&T? I mean, if they fill the gap on the emergency respondent piece, does it dovetail with the services that Verizon Is
Our understanding is that they're two separate, and that Verizon actually is the emergency responder in this area, not AT&T. So you're talking about FirstNet. That's not familiar.
They're the only approved contractor for CGIS at this time.
okay.
And CGIS, I think, is FirstNet is different than CGIS, and
Right,
we're
CGIS is state.
CGIS, yeah.
And FirstNet
Yeah.
is national. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's
So any help that you can give us on that?
Yeah,
I mean,
this
that's-
is-
and it's really the big stick we need, because we're unable to deal with Verizon on this. And we need the state to just say, let's do it,
Is
let's
it
stop
just
fussing around.
just as an aside.
Yeah.
And as I said, because I'm asking people that play in this field every day, and it was like American Tower lent themselves their opinion on it. The statement to me this morning was, I don't see why they just wouldn't put an antenna up. Well, point is, they've got to suggest that they will be willing to put an antenna on the site that is yet to be placed yet.
Mhm.
And that's what you're saying. Get them a letter of recommendation that they would be willing
Letter,
to.
well, if they're willing to give a letter
Sorry,
of
and I
intent,
think-
then yes.
Yeah, and Steve sent you all the information, so anything else you need from us, please get in touch with Melissa here, and we can give you
Yeah,
any of those
absolutely.
emails that say they're not interested.
Because
so-
yeah, we've got some too, and we're not, it's not in their capital plan. But that being said,
Yeah.
what's an antenna? An antenna is nothing. I'm not asking you to put the tower up,
Yeah.
but
You know, they have better cell service in sub-Saharan Africa than we do here in Monterey, so.
So that, with that subject dealt
Okay,
with,
okay.
and that you'll have that up and running by, what, a week or so?
oh yeah, we're
I'd like to
That's
get,
good.
can we get
Thank
in-
you very
sure,
much.
get into broadband,
let's
because
go.
broadband is the real sticker.
I'll just mention, I
Yeah.
am recused from broadband discussions, although I am a full-fledged participant in everything else here, because my daughter is employed by the local provider.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a, still
Under town council advice.
temporary exit.
I feel really bad about this. That's the way law works. So I'm gonna, so broadband, we've been struggling with broadband for 8 years. We have a broadband committee that's been functioning for the last 3 years. And we're a town, as Steve said earlier, that we like to get things done. And it's really tiring what's going on now with broadband. So I'm gonna turn it over to Cliff to give kind of a summary of where we're at, and then we'll kind of go back and forth and figure out whether we can figure out a way through this morass and finish this out, because we see a way forward for a win-win for the state and for us, and we would like to be the next, within a year, all wired and ready to go. Cliff.
Okay, so thanks for coming here. The ask that we have is the help from your office to break a kind of a logjam that we have with us and MBI and the local provider. And we all get along, everybody's friendly, but we're at kind of a process logjam. And you made a comment Tuesday in New Marlboro about local control. And in a previous meeting, Mr. Larkin was here and talked about if the town is willing to assume some level of responsibility, there's a way forward and all that. So I'll get into the details of that in a second. A couple of quick points. We don't have many choices here. Several of the providers that are out there have decided not to pursue Monterey. We do have a local provider based in Monterey, well-funded, that has been installing and lighting up, much like in Egremont, for almost a year. And one of the reasons we believe that the other providers are not interested is because they've already done too much, and it wouldn't be economically viable for them to come in. So our choices are limited. Actually, we don't have choices. And so, again, the ask is to help break the logjam to get the grant monies so that we can proceed with the completion of the rollout of broadband in Monterey. And I'll get a little bit more detail in a second here. Quickly, the broadband committee in Monterey, a little bit different than other towns in that we've got 3 people on the committee with over 30 years of experience in broadband and in network design and delivery. So I just want to let you know that we're a little bit different. And the responsibility that the broadband committee has is not just to get something in quickly, it's to get something in that, for the long term as well. And so that is something, we're not going to support an expedient solution, we wanna support the solution that's best for the town. So we have a local provider, and again, they've extensively deployed, and again, we no longer have a choice. So we'd like to get into a discussion how we can move forward.
So you have about 870 premises to serve?
800
Okay.
Right.
And how many is the local provider providing service to?
To date has passed over 300 homes in phase one, and we'll pass another 350 or so in phase two, which is slated for completion. It's slated for installations beginning now.
December.
Well, completion.
Is the plan, if this was your partner of choice, would they be able to serve 100% of the community or 96% of the community?
They would be able to serve 96% of the community, yes. There's a couple of outlying properties that need to be serviced from other towns.
How many subscribers do they have?
How many subscribers do they have today? They have over 200 and something subscribers in town now, correct? In Monterey?
In Monterey alone, it's registered, yes.
Yes. With over 200 of the 300 and some odd. We've had kind of a delay in the uptake, number one, because there was some uncertainty as to what the town was doing in terms of we received proposals that the state put out. We worked with Sandersfield, Tolland, and New Marlboro on a multi-town proposal. We put out our own RFP. We've been trying to cover the bases as best we can. And so there was some confusion, I won't say confusion, there was some delay in the town uptake until we figured out what was gonna happen here. We also have a large number of second homeowners, and some of them are waiting to hear what's gonna happen. So that's where we are to date. I think the plan again for the second phase is another 300 and some odd, and I don't know what the take rate is on that. I think it's around 20% so far, and that would get us up to about 70%. The key here is that they are doing it with their own money. They have no, right now, funding from the state. It's being done privately. And as a private company, they can go out and, do the work. And they've done the make ready. They've actually, put things on poles and actually lit up,
Is make ready being done as you go, or is the community
They are.
completed make ready?
No, they are doing make ready in phases, and then they are lighting up as they go.
So, can I interject?
Yeah.
So it's important to note that none of this is our doing. That we have ended up in a situation, unlike any other town in the Commonwealth, that we have a provider that on their own dime is actually wiring and has committed to wiring 70% of the town in their business plan. They saw the opportunity and they're doing
And
it.
the user is directly contracting for their
Right,
service.
correct. In other towns, there's a whole, as you know, a whole lot of different ways of going. So we're,
So the
and,
town
and,
has not appropriated any money
No.
for this project?
No. and that Charter and other Matrix and a number of other companies have looked at Monterey. We even at one point heard from Charter that they were interested in coming in Monterey, but they've all backed off because of where we're at.
They sent us a letter in January, I believe, saying that they declined to come in.
Okay, on the poles that are here, are there any other utilities on the poles?
Any other?
Utilities?
Sure, Verizon,
Right.
National Grid.
Yeah.
And you're able to work with them
Yes.
Sure.
for the
Yeah.
process?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's no different than anything else that's going on with any of the other towns that are doing broadband. They provide, they submit and they get permission to put it on and they get it done.
So really, the ask here is for the grant monies to work a process where the grant monies can be released so that we can complete the project across the entire town.
In the $1.2 million, is that what it was
Yes.
estimated
Yeah.
from MBI?
Yes.
How do you envision the flow of that funding?
Well,
go?
this is where the logjam is.
Right.
As of right now, in our last discussion with MBI, there was a kind of a shift that
Payment
said,
in arrears, a reimbursement?
well, there was a shift that said if the town is willing to take responsibility, then MBI would be more inclined to work with us to get the monies.
Right, because
Um,
the way the program is set up, there are certain standards that every community has to meet in order to do two things. First of all, ensure that the project that's constructed and is operational for the users, the residents,
Right.
and that the legalities of all of that and the regulations that need to be adhered to are all checked off through legal counsel, et cetera.
Right, so
there's the standard that's set in place, which is a good thing, and now you fall into a unique circumstance, as you just described, so
Yes.
how do we still adhere to the standards but get this completed?
So, and one of the stumbling blocks is around financials. And there are several issues here. One is, as a private company, it is, they're not as necessarily forthcoming with financials. It's part of their competitive sauce, secret sauce, if you will. And the problem is when you submit that information to an MBI, it becomes public.
Okay.
So,
But the point is to ensure that the project gets complete. Okay, we don't want
Correct.
the monies to flow and then the project not get completed. That's not good for you,
right.
you.
But in
Or the state.
in the most recent discussions with MBI, back in, what was it, January or February, we were out here?
March 12th.
Oh, March 12th, there you go. There was a shift in that where the responsibility, and much like you said the other day, that if the towns are willing to take on the responsibility, then there is a way to move forward to get the grant monies. So,
Is
in
there-
Payment in arrears.
Right, payment arrears.
Well,
What
so-
is the town's position on that?
We're having that.
this is the discussion.
So the town, so part of that is in where the town is at in terms of bonding and that. We have a library project that's on all set to start up. We've gotten a grant from our new library.
Excellent,
We have the grant,
congratulations.
yeah, it's a real plus for the town, but that also puts us into a bonding situation. So if you structure this, if you look at this, we're a town that's responsible for our finances, and we've done a really good job of it. We have incredible streets, bridges, we've done it all, and we continue to do it all. We have incredibly talented people here. We take the responsibility of the finances seriously. Our tax rate is the 5th lowest in the Commonwealth, and yet we've accomplished more than many other towns around us. What we need right now from MDI and from the state is some support for how we can finish this project. And we seem to be locked into only one or two ways forward, rather than looking at it as a box that we can open up and kind of explore different paths. And we're not looking for a finalized thing, we're not looking for you to give us all the money, we're looking for ways, how can we complete this project at a way that's responsible for our taxpayers here. We have a way that will not impact the taxes here in one. You have money, our money has already been allocated. How can we make that work and how can we put that together?
I'm gonna give Peter a chance to talk to that since you've attended
Sorry,
the
I
meetings and he's.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's
we'd like to explore a different approach.
Well, let's have Peter explain what you're thinking,
Yeah.
and then
Well-
you should put forward an idea as well.
Well, as we had met before and as we had corresponded later, we understand that, you depict your unfortunate circumstances of being left with one provider as a circumstance of nature. You were given opportunities, in other words, there were offers made by the charter.
Wait,
There
okay,
were-
wait,
That's the
Peter,
past.
Peter, please.
I'm just saying, but
Wait, no. The
can I have
offer
my
from Charter-
can I have my minute?
The offer
Can
from
I have my
Charter,
minute, Ken?
the offer from Charter was coaxial cable in the fiber world. Give me a
They
break.
rescinded.
Really?
Listen, I know you had a problem with the technology issue. Say what you will, okay? We don't need to go that. We're agnostic about it. In that way, they were bringing broadband services.
No,
You
you
had-
shouldn't be agnostic about a future
Ken,
that's.
Ken,
okay? That being said, as I said, you're describing is unfortunate circumstances. You're left with a provider. 2 years ago, you had no choices. You had choices. You've chosen to go with the local firm. Fine, not a problem. The issue is they have no finances that they can present that we could verify. Okay, that we could put money up. We have a responsibility for public monies are distributed with public accountability. And that's the baseline expectation.
So when you say
understanding
when you say that if the towns are willing to take on the responsibility, that has not been defined by
the
you.
responsibility is we're willing to make the allocation available to the town once they've done what they said they were going to do. And in the original proposal they made claim that they needed no public monies. They could do that. And the allocation would still be available upon them upon the performance of 96% coverage and a 50% take rate.
So as a private company, they're only obligated to do what's makes sense for their business plan. The allocation is designed to help service the remainder of the town that is beyond that 70% that is not inherently profitable
let's
from a private
understand.
company.
Let's understand the allocations. Okay, the allocations were set up. It was an artifice of what they call the Cartesian model, where every town was given an allocation premised upon the previous administration's approach towards a one-size-fits-all 100% fiber connection passing the home. All right, this administration realized when they first came in that this was an undoable set of circumstances. So they have then put together another model, which is a 96% coverage, all right, in a speed of 25.3. That's all they've asked. But at the very same time, there's a public accountability for the dollars. So we put out an RFP out there, the RFP. We took in solicitations, and you got an offer at that point in time from Charter. You didn't like it, fine. Other towns have pushed back from Comcast and Charter at the very same time. You have that right, okay? At the very same time, you were in negotiations with Frontier. That didn't hit a sweet spot for this community either. And something that's fine. But by a happy circumstances, you have a homegrown business, okay, with no track record other than what they're doing every day, and God bless them, because it is the private.
I think they're right. Right there now.
It's a private
Yes.
effort.
They didn't plan that, did you?
No. Adam knows, and we have asked. They responded to the original RFP. There were left open questions. We sent them back. I have the materials and documentation here.
Right.
I have the correspondence since the February 12th meeting, and all we're asking for is this very same thing of any program. We need to have a map forward
And
You
so-
understand that
and a
as
plan.
Yeah.
public entity as well, so.
And so
you do too.
we
You need that.
we put forth a suggestion. We were working with Ed Donnelly, who's no longer.
And Ed's correspondence is here for you to read.
I understand. Where we were going to go, and we have retained an accounting firm to go and study the financial viability of the startup or the whatever, the company, and we were going to submit that to MBI and working with Ed Donnelly to determine what information you needed to see in that. Let me finish. No, listen. In your response, your email on April 12th, you basically said that that's of no use to you, no benefit to you.
It's April 17th.
April 17th. That was
Okay,
close.
just so
Yes, MBI says in an email on 4/17 that the accounting opinion will not directly affect our partnership. If that is what we want to do, we will partner with a program in arrears. So here's the logjam. In order to avoid us having to go through the process of bonding and taking on burden for the town, we are trying to come up with a plan that would take pieces of the allocation, and as we came up with money, we would be refunded. We would be reimbursed, as opposed to waiting for, according to the FGOA, I think that's what it's called, 2 years, right? No money's, according to the plan, would be payable for 2 years, and another 25% of that funding will be withheld for a longer term.
What's the purpose behind the 2 years?
Well, the point is they've got to stand up the project. In other words, we're not held to the 2 years. We didn't have a timeline. The reality is we said to you, is a suggestion, we wanna be sure that the project is made whole.
Right,
We
so
don't-
they're gonna
the
argue,
2
they're
years
gonna argue
is-
that they're already standing up the project, because they're
Well,
starting
the point is,
to
to
put
this
through.
firm on its own, to its credit, all right, charging, let's say, pricing is,
$99 a month.
which in some ways, and it's a hookup fee of how much?
But that is, that's a red herring.
I'm just saying to you,
There's
that's
a
your,
hookup
that's
fee
your,
that raises
can I-
that goes from $300 to $1,000 based upon when
that's
you
your
sign up.
decision. You've made that choice, and God bless the private sector. They're looking for a return on investment. We're sitting here, and all we're saying is, for the public monies, now, remember the Cartesian model. It expected that the town themselves would put money into this. There is no proposal from this town to put any money into this.
So, but we find ourselves in this interesting position. This should be a plus, rather, you see it as a negative.
You're
You
saying
should see it as
the
a plus.
market is
We
providing
have,
the
we
solution.
we don't have to put money into it, the town doesn't have to raise taxes to put money into it, because we have a private provider that's already providing 70% of the town. I mean, it's already putting that money in, that's the money.
Passing and subscribers are two different things.
But subscriber is not fair, because you can't, even if Charter went by every home in the town, how do you force somebody to subscribe?
Absolutely right, except,
Okay.
except the issue is,
So take rate's
so
not
the
valid.
reason why the take rate is important, and anyone who's gone down this road, is operational sustainability. All right, if you spent the money and you have a take rate of 20 or 30%, mark my words, operational sustainability will not occur. Okay, so again, it puts the public monies at risk. That's why
However-
we need to be sure that the financial partner we have, okay, can show that they have financial capabilities. A performance bond, if you would like.
Well,
would be
we
available.
proposed that to you before.
My
and-
point is, can the private provider present a performance bond?
Well, Mr. Larkin, we've proposed that to you before, and
Well, my
we have
point is-
been rejected so many times.
You have not been rejected. My point is, you have a proposal in front of you
Yeah.
of what you need to do. Okay, it's been articulated in 2 letters in the formation that we have. We've had this conversation. My point is, make some, you have to go and talk to your provider, who we've asked them time and again, please respond to the RFP. Please respond to the MBI Flexible Grant Program RFP.
Mhm.
No response has been forthcoming.
And we're going out for another RFP to
So my
make sure
point is,
that we are in
All you
line
need to
with
do is ask
procurement
your
rules.
provider to respond to the questions appropriately,
And we are. We've hired a
which
a
we said
municipal
is
accounting
good,
firm.
which we think is good. But-
Yes, but you said in your email that it
It-
has no effect on
Well,
you.
it doesn't. My point is, a third party saying to us that these finances are fine. I mean, if we that's
Isn't
what
that
you're
a
asking us to
perfectly
do.
acceptable, qualified,
But what we're trying,
certified accounting position.
but what we're trying to ensure is that the project completes and is
Yes.
sustained,
Right.
okay, and that the users are not
Sure,
left
so where does
But what's
without
going
an
to
end
create it
product
is a
with-
rigid
with
program.
the $1.2
It
million
is a flexible
allocation.
program.
It's a lot of money to make sure that can come to complete this project, but it has to get completed. And it has to be
So,
accessible to the residents here at a rate that is
so again,
comparable
the
to
ask
other
is,
market rates across the
the
country.
ask is to work with us to come up with something that's less black and white, and to reward what's already been done with some kind of remuneration or whatever the word is.
Okay, but I
to
think
get
that we
monies.
already beyond, we are working with you. What I'm hearing from Peter is that we are working with you. There is a process that we have to adhere to. And if there's information that needs to be provided to this now second
The RFP
package of
the RFP
information
is
that's been
still
sent to
open.
you, you need to respond to that. It's probably a combination of the accountant's presentation as well as a discussion around the performance bond. I think you need to reply to that.
Okay, but we would prefer an additional resource from your office to help us in our dialogue with MBI. Because we seem to have
They are our office.
Well,
So you
the
are,
resources-
in our office. So-
As I said earlier, the
Our office,
expectation.
let me just say, the executive office, the governor and me and our team, this is one of our highest priorities. So
So-
we are managing through the last mile communities, and you are one of the last of the last because it's unique and this is hard
So
to get
let-
through.
let-
So but we're here at this table for a reason today.
well,
Make
So
sure
how
that
many,
Right.
could I like to ask a
communicate with-
question? So how many of the other towns, do you have a contract with them that says you get paid in arrears?
there's an opportunity for Peter Sham to go down that road. That's what they're intending to do right now. The payment in arrears is available to any town if they want to do it. In other words, if they want to choose an unvetted provider, okay, with little operational experience, but they think that's the best choice for their community, we say, fine. It says, but stand it up and we'll pay you in arrears.
So what we don't
It's an
understand.
option, it is an option.
What we don't understand is this program under the Office of Housing and Economic Development seems to be loaded in favor of paying out-of-state large providers their grant monies up front, and there seems to be no programs to help the local innovative small companies where all the revenues are staying within the Berkshires and within Berkshire County.
I think that's an inaccurate statement.
Okay,
Okay.
please help us.
Because when we decided to release the dollars through MBI, each community had choices to consider. And choices have been made. There are some communities, not many, like yours, who are in the process of making the choice and develop a relationship with a partner to both construct and operate the system for the future. So there are options. We're not telling any community what to do. The community's deciding what they want to do. And then once they meet the standards, as I articulated before, legal counsel letters, adoption of certain agreements, and you go down that checklist, then the monies can flow from MBI to the project.
And so
there are certain standards in that checklist that this project needs to meet, and that's what we're trying to work around in our conversation
So
today.
in the discussion the other day in Egremont about their costs and the fact that they don't really know their true costs from charter,
That's correct.
we have since kind of been informed that additional monies were offered to Egremont.
Okay, so we do
To
have the
help with that.
legislature
There
represented.
has not been new monies
No,
presented.
no,
to
there's,
Okay.
there's a second authorization from the Commonwealth.
Right.
The first allotment was 50 million, and then there's a second authorization of $45 million.
Right.
Because we all know that we can estimate what the make-ready costs might be, and that's one number. When the actual make-ready costs are done, that's a separate number, and it's oftentimes not less. So we needed to, at the state level, find additional authorization, which the legislature and our office agreed to, and it's available to address those additional make-ready costs in the communities so that we get these projects completed.
This is to clarify this. The original RFP, MBI RFP, to the private providers, okay, we got offers from Charter and Comcast to take the allocations available to those communities and build out a 96% solution, of which an offer was made to Monterey. You chose not to go down that road, fine, okay. We then go to an MBI, we have what they call the MBI, or the HED, Last Mile Grant Program. That's where the communities themselves, okay, want to build a broadband network. They take our allocation monies to begin with, okay, to make that whole, okay. We have a contingency fund on the make-ready components of it, but that's not available to the town unless they pay 60% of their own money. But they believe in building their own network, all right, that they refused, like you did in part, the cable company's offers. Now, the reason that there is some consideration from MBI that the cable companies are a financial and sustainable model is they've been doing it. They represent 96% of how broadband is delivered to a community now. All right. They also have the ability of sustainability. They have a financial book that you can look at very credibly and realize that they're going to be investing in innovation, as even in the midst of the last offer from Charter, they changed their model and said they were going to come out with a fiber build.
Which is a red herring, as we know.
Well, it wasn't a red herring. I think they've also looked at it and saw that there was competition relative occurring in Monterey, and they said, you know something, we've made the offer, it wasn't embraced, that's fine, time to move on. And that's a mutual decision made by the communities and its charter to them. So they have since responded to another, the MBI Flexible Grant Program, and they've made an offer to New Marlboro, okay, going forward. And Comcast has made a number of offers to three other communities. At the end of the day, we have to ensure that public monies are spent and spent wisely, and the model that is finally put up is sustainable. And for that reason alone, we're not discouraging you in any other way than money to say to you, listen, you want to go your own route, like Peter Sham does, or yourself, okay? Because Peter Sham got an offer too, but it was only a 90% coverage for charter, and they decided not to go in that direction. And my only point I'm trying to say to you is, that's fine, but without the financial viability, without a track record other than what they've done in your town, which is laudable, okay? We can't provide public monies without public accountability.
So again, our ask is to figure out a way from these two polar positions to try and meet somewhere in the middle, and I don't get a sense that there's an opportunity.
Can I ask you a
to
question?
do that.
Can I ask you a
That's not the
question?
sense that I got from our conversation today.
Okay, well, good.
Okay.
So let's come up with an action plan, an action item that says what our next step is to figure out how to figure out a way to get from these two polar.
Can I ask a question here? Is
Yes.
there any interest of the town of Monterey to put any money into any of this?
To put our own money in?
Yeah.
Well, we may have to.
No, I'm just saying, is there any interest?
So,
Yeah,
so
need to.
actually, so what?
1.2 million should
Every-
satisfy all of our
One
needs.
point two million should set. We are in a unique position where the 1.2 million will finish the entire project.
I'm just asking.
But why is that, why when we have a private contractor that's willing to provide the money that other towns have to take out of their tax base, you want us to do the same thing?
I'm
Only
not asking
because
that.
it's what, the way that you
We're
think it
not,
should be done?
no, we don't think, the track record of this one provider is very new. Its finances have never been
Yeah,
presented.
Great Barrington is just has just signed on with them to to replace the charter spectrum program in Great Barrington because the businesses aren't getting what they need.
Listen,
Okay.
Okay, so what I think
so-
we need to focus
hold
on,
on.
we need to focus on the accountability for the project to be completed. Okay, that's, everyone agrees on that.
Mhm.
We also all agree that the project needs to be sustainable, so they far into the future. Okay, we all agree on that.
So can I speak to that?
Accountability and
Can
sustainability.
the asset that will be on the line, that's the sustainability. Because even if a company puts up all the lines and they fail, someone else is gonna come in and go on those lines. I mean, the asset, those lines are the asset, and that's huge, and I don't think MBI has realized that that's the real important part of this project, is to get the lines on those poles into the houses. Once those lines are there, whoever is providing the service beyond that, the lines are the hard part, that's where the money is spent, that's where it's all at.
Once the glass is up, then it can be sold, it can be bought, it can be acquired by the town, it can be acquired by charter.
But I'm curious, what Peter is looking for in terms of the
The
town.
accountability.
What is he looking for
And the
from the town?
performance.
well, would you sign a performance bond for your provider? Would you sign a performance bond for your provider?
Well, isn't that the exercise that we're trying to go through with the municipal accounting firm? Yes,
Will
we're
the
trying.
town sign the performance bond of the private provider?
And if we do,
I'm
would
just
you-
asking, I don't know, I've gotta go back and take this back too, we don't have the answers here at this table.
Right, so, and we're not gonna get the answers right now, and we're running out of time over here. I do want to, I mean, we can go,
You can cut it off if you want.
well, I think there's, I'd like to address the chapter 90 and the,
Okay, so I feel I have enough of an understanding based upon our conversation today. I thank you for articulating where you feel things are at, and thank you, Peter.
So the last thing, I would just like
Okay.
to know what our next conversation will be
Okay.
to discuss this further. I mean, we talk to Peter whenever we
Okay,
need to.
and that's my
And
job.
he, us.
That's my job to figure out with you.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
I
you.
understand
That's
this,
what it's gonna
we
be.
have frustration here, but, you know, again, it's,
It's okay.
we wanna get things done.
Yeah, 2 more.
But I
We
know
really have to go,
We have
unfortunately,
other
we have to go
spots
to our
It's a
next
big thing,
location,
2
we're
minutes.
already behind schedule, so we do need to leave now, unfortunately.
It's a
it's
huge
up to
item.
you. It's up to you.
Well, I mean, Ken, you wanna jump in just for briefly to talk about?
I mean, yeah, and there's two things. One is chapter 90, which you've heard from other towns, is critical to the Berkshires here in terms of roads and bridges. the lack of funding for chapter 90 in terms of the total amount is below what we need in order to operate this.
Okay, so just quickly on chapter 90, we know it's bread and butter.
Yep.
You know, first day, our administration released monies that were held up from the,
Yep.
from the
We
prior administration, okay? Then we plugged into our capital plan 5 years, $200 million. I know that's not enough from your point of view, okay? But at least we put it in our budget, so it's never uncertain
Yep.
that money's there. We also filed the bill in February, because we want those monies to be released to you sooner in this year than later. The legislature was reviewing the bill. Didn't come to the committee, they still have it.
Okay. Yep.
As soon as it comes to us,
I
we're
just
signing
want you
it
to
and
hear that,
releasing those
because
funds.
that's part of what I mean. The other part,
I also know we've done a couple of other things. The 10 to 20 foot small bridge and culvert program, we started up in response to a lot of requests we received, especially from small communities. I don't know if there's something there for you to take advantage of. And there are a lot of state membered routes here
yes,
that are municipally maintained. I also know that that is an issue, and I'm discussing that issue with our
so
SDOT.
chapter 90 money should be used for town roads,
Correct.
not on state roads.
Yes, I understand that completely.
So the other issue is waivers. You brought that up over in New Marlboro, that the reality of small towns is waivers for a lot of the programs, including waivers for building programs and that.
Yes.
Not just roads and bridges, but when we do a building project, we need to be able to keep that cost in line. And the situations now are geared towards Boston prices, not out here, and it kills us.
Got it. That's very good
It also
feedback.
gives us the ability to use local contractors, which beef up our own contractors.
Understood.
And I'll give you
If I need more
just
info that, I
one
might ask you to.
one quick
give
example.
Examples
We
on
did a
that.
transfer station just recently, a new transfer station. We bid it out, it came in at $600,000 from 3 contractors out of Boston and Springfield. We asked the Attorney General to do it separated out for local. It ended up costing us $350,000. That was that's the kind of savings that we strive for,
Exactly, that's a very good example.
and that we're very responsible for our monies.
I see, I know that's, I
You can
applaud
tell
you for
Peter,
that.
when you see Peter, tell him that.
All right, and
We
is
all
there
want
any, did you want me to have the conversation after on the way out with you? Happy to do that.
You have another point?
Well, I was really concerned about the small towns and the need to be able to, you know, if for a bridge, you know, we can spend 150, the state would want us to spend $1 million.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I understand that. I agree with you.
And I wanna really apologize to Karyn because she was out of the conversation.
Yeah.
So she's gonna call you directly in time.
You can, hey, I'm
These are
sorry,
the
this is me.
The notes.
That's perfect. Okay, we do have some notes. One lesson that I have learned very strongly since being in the select board, and not just a public school teacher, is there's a huge difference between the way the cities and the suburbs look at issues and the way we have to handle things here in a
That's
very, very
correct.
small town.
Yes.
We have a little bit of information there, but we are covering 96% of our town revenue comes in on 30% of our properties. You know, if you'd asked me a few years ago to guess, like how much is off the tax roll, I might have thought, oh, a quarter, that would be a lot. 70%.
Yeah, that was a very helpful memo. Thank you for
And
sharing that.
the information in there, you know, I don't want to
We have
repeat it, but
been intentional about our support to small towns. I'll give you an example. MassWorks is our largest infrastructure program. We have a carve out in the MassWorks infrastructure program simply for rural small towns. And without that carve out, it might be difficult to get that money over to a small town because some of the criteria require a commercial enterprise, more housing, things that you couldn't do as part of the application process. So we carved out a whole segment of money. I think it's about $10 million.
And it's important to note too
But
that
it's because I heard from you, from your counterparts, to tell us that that's the kind of thing that you need.
So it's important to note that we did get a grant for our library from the state,
Yes.
$2 million. And we also got an $800,000 housing, to do rehabilitation of housing for low and moderate income. So I mean, we've really appreciate it.
advantage.
We appreciate the work here. But we need help with broadband.
And
And
self-service,
self-service.
and self-service, I got that. Okay, this was very helpful, I thank you, and we will be back in touch.
Thank you
with
for coming.
very soon.
Yep.